Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. And if you have a tale to tell, you're also welcome to contact me there on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I'm very happy to have Marc Fishman back on the podcast. He is accompanied by Ann Elliott, who has been a supervisor for 1 year and witnessed the parental alienation that went on in Marc Fishman's case. And somehow Judge Schauer is ignoring all of this. And Ann Elliott was there the day of Marc's arrest. Now, Marc Fishman has been on the podcast, season 5, episodes 202, 224, 240, 264, and 276, where we talked about the last time he was on was retaliation on an ADA advocate, as Marc, as a severely disabled man with hearing and cognitive impairment, and he's being retaliated by the DA's office for his civil rights and failure to accommodate his disabilities and complaints against them. And he's the only public victim of Attorney General designated pattern misconduct and pattern false arresting. Officer Lane Schlesinger terminated. Officer Lane Schlesinger is only Westchester's police officer designated pattern of malfeasance, lying, misconduct of cop by Attorney General Letitia James and Law Enforcement Misconduct Unit. I welcome you both on. And Marc, you've been through so much, and Schauer expects you to show up in court on your birthday because they always do this stuff around holidays, anniversaries, and birthdays.
You got it, Ann. You got it, Maryann. Thank you for having us on the podcast. Thank you, Ann, for attending. And yes, the conspiracy comes full circle, ladies. Isn't it amazing? And what I could say to your audience is, stay the course, because we had no idea that all the complaints my team and I were making, and my advocates and my supervisors, would actually be picked up by the Attorney General in a law enforcement misconduct investigation. Keep in mind, the law enforcement misconduct investigation is based on a 2021 law in New York, okay, with Governor Cuomo and the Senate and Assembly, which basically states, ladies, that the police chief of the 500 or so police towns and cities must report pattern misconduct, pattern false arrests of any cop or any police official that has 5 or more in 2 years. So again, 5 or more misconducts in 2 years must be reported from the police chief to the Attorney General. And the Attorney General then has to do a comprehensive investigation. In our case, the investigation was 2.5 years. Ladies, 30 months. 30 months on Lane Schlesinger. During the time we deposed Lane Schlesinger in my federal lawsuit, and of course, he didn't mention any of this. We deposed the supervisor. They didn't mention any of this. And meanwhile, it confirmed what we said all along. Lane Schlesinger does pattern false arrests. Lane Schlesinger has his own version of the law. Lane Schlesinger makes up reports. Lane Schlesinger lies. And Lane Schlesinger also fights with his other officers. I mean, in our case, the whole case is actually based on the interaction with Ann Elliott, who's a very good supervisor, very well known, very educated and supportive of the disabled community. I'm disabled, with hearing and memory impairments from a car accident. And what I can say is that here you have a supervised visit where supervisors paid to pick up my autistic son, December 15, 18. I have my disability driver, because Judge Schauer didn't want me driving, even though I got my license back, right? And you have a situation where you have a cop like Lane Schlesinger who just doesn't want to read a visitation order, doesn't want to listen to a supervisor, and instead, okay, guns armed, let's go right to arrest somebody. But wait a second, what's the purpose of a visitation order? What's the purpose of a carve-out visitation, right? What's the purpose of having these orders if you have a cop who, in this case, with his own problems with communicating, had no desire, no ability to read everything? He said to Ann and I, this is the most comprehensive, longest agreement I ever saw. And Ann would then describe to him, well, he has visits every other Saturday with me and he'd be like, well, where is this? And she says, wherever arrangements I make with the ex-wife, and
Mhm.
he's like, well, I got to go speak to my supervisor instead of reading the damn thing, and to make matters worse, let's go to the central issue. He files an arrest report, right? And on the arrest report, he's asked, and Maryann, is a supervisor present? And he checks off X unknown. I would say Anne is a beautiful lady like you. She makes her presence known.
Mhm.
He spoke to her for over 2 hours. He knew she was the supervisor. He knew she was in the court order. He asked to confirm her. He saw her ID, and so if he would have marked yes, then the only way that could have been arrested was for Anne to fill out an arrest report. He marked unknown. And that began the series of lies, which then included down the page, is there any video or audio? No, no video or audio. There was 9 hours worth on delayed tape,
Mhm.
and so and slash just telling my disability aide I didn't commit a crime and have malicious intent. So now you have an attorney general investigating. You find there's a lot of other instances, and now you have it where he's pattern misconduct. He gets to retire.
Mhm.
And since we last spoke, Maryann, not only do we have Officer Cocaine, Officer
Mhm.
Sean Kane, who planted drugs at Ivan Harper and was terminated, we now have Officer Gazzola, who was the supervisor during our federal lawsuit, the chief of police who referred last year, who said it was a mistake hiring him as a cop. And then suddenly, less than a year after he files that in, he so-called retires. So the last of the gang is gone. And now we have a commission review of police department that we're complaining to look into all the false arrests of last year in Kane. And, as you reported before, the DA doesn't want to investigate. The DA doesn't want to drop charges. The DA wants me sentenced, wants to put me in jail for a year for a crime I didn't commit. Okay. And the judge just said, there's no evidence here that there's any misconduct. No evidence. You have the video and the audio of Schlesinger telling my aide saying I didn't commit a crime 3 times. You have the arrest report that says unknown if supervisor was there. Supervisor was there. You got Schlesinger saying that he reviewed my phone at the police precinct. Well, reviewed the phone. So my during the federal deposition, okay, in 2023, okay, Officer Schlesinger was asked by my attorney, okay, so you said you reviewed the phone. You said Marc made messages to his daughter. And my attorney said, wasn't Marc allowed to text his daughter if the supervisor was around? Yeah. So the supervisor told him to text his daughter on a couple of visits when the daughter was at track and they were trying to locate her on a big field.
Mhm.
What's the big deal? He says, where's the violation? Oh, and he says, well, he's not allowed to do that. And he said, no, if you read the visitation order, Fishman's allowed to contact them, particularly when he's with the aide and he's with the supervisor, which Ann was. So
Mhm.
then to make matters worse, he says, you said you took Fishman's phone. Yeah, you said you took it away for an hour. Yeah. So you took away his interpretation, which he would display your words on the screen for his cognitive impairment. You took it away, but you're saying you didn't read the text messages. No, I read them all. I said, oh, so what about this one to Ann Elliott? Oh, there was none to Ann Elliott. Just wait a second.
Oh.
Ann certified this in federal court. Marc writes to Ann Elliott on the 14th of December. And it's Hanukkah. I need to confirm if my visit's on. I want to give the kids gifts. I look forward to them seeing on the 15th. Ann writes back, yes, the visit's on. Pick me up. I'll be across from my place at Dunkin' Donuts. And I write, confirmed. My 8 drive there. Yes. And then we asked that to Schlesinger, the attorney. Says, Schlesinger, did you read his text message? Oh, no, I never saw this. Oh, you never saw it? Oh, really? Okay, but you took his phone, right? And you said you looked at the messages on his phone that day. Yeah. Okay, so now that you see it, what would you have done now? You know, 5 years later, officers last year, in 2023, for a 2018 arrest, what would you have done? Oh, I would have asked Miss Elliott if the message were true. You see it's from her phone. You see he's got a certified printout from Sprint saying it's from her phone. You see she responds. You know her phone number. You looked
Mhm.
at that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what would you have done? Oh, I would have investigated. Oh, you investigate now, 5 years later. Well, thank you, officer. You ruined Fishman's life. He hasn't seen his kids. You'd investigate now, but you didn't do back then. That you were more interested in nonsense. So that's why I want to say it's conspiracy. I have one more year, ladies, before my twins turn 18.
Oh.
I guarantee you, once they turn 18, no one's going to care about this case. I want to see my kids before then. I want to see my older kids who are 20 and a half and 21 and a half, Jonah and Joanna. And I'm so happy Ann's here to talk
Mhm.
about it. But this is the mafia in family court. This is what happens when they get caught with their pants down and they just cover for each other. And to make matters
Mhm.
worse, after I was discharged from violence court, I'm a very peaceful man, never hurt anybody. I get Judge Burke, and Judge Burke immediately assigns me attorney, says we're going to have a hearing on Parental Alienation. Oh, no, Judge Shower takes the case. How did she do that? She recused. She takes the case. Three-pending appeal. Why did Judge Shower take case? You know why Judge Shower take case. Because once the truth comes out that Judge Shower spoke to this cop and told him to arrest me, that day for not committing a crime, who's going to get fired. You know what I'm saying? And they don't want to codify this in front of federal Judge Rahman, who still has my federal case, but they basically certified conspiracy, 1983, a conspiracy between the DA, the cops, the Attorney General, Schlesinger, and Kane, and Gazola, not to have Mark have his visits and to disability discriminate so he doesn't have visits with his disabled autistic son. And he's spinning his wheels for all these years. Now we got the tools and the videos and the audios, and the Attorney General report prove it. And what does the judge say? Oh, there's no evidence of anything. Fishman should go to jail for a year. I've had enough jail. I've had enough order protection. It's time to put some civil servants, some court people, and some cops in jail. And with that, thanks for having me on. Let me let in, speak away.
Good afternoon, Ann.
Good afternoon.
Well, God bless you for being there for Mark.
Yeah. Well, God bless Mark for keeping
Right.
this. It's been brutal. It's been bloody,
Mm-hmm.
but he never gave up. And I just really commend Mr. Fishman. Mark, I always say Mr. Fishman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Caribbean, so I still have that Caribbean manners in me. Yes, it's a brutal fight. And I just want to, I would be remiss if I not mention and just remember Lizzie Hardin, Weinstein, a champion, a fighter who gave her all to this fighting this corrupt system of
Mm-hmm.
family court. My backstory is I am a 30-year veteran working in the child welfare system in New York City, 17 of those years in foster care,
Mm-hmm.
10 of those years in this CPS division, just 2 years as a CPS, and then I worked in other areas and a supervisor since 2018. And so when I started in 2018, Mr. Fishman was the first case I had. But coming in with a plethora of supervised visit, background, a lot of court experience, having been a CPS, foster care worker, and having to testify in court. So a lot of what Mr. Fishman has explained, what he has gone through, is nothing new to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who worked within the system. I've gone to court. I've been privy to pre-conferences, post-conferences, where decisions are already made. And it's just really being enacted out into the courtroom. As it pertains to Mr. Fishman, I really came on. I've done a couple of podcasts. My life has been in danger. There has been a bounty on my head for quite some time because I'm one that came out of the system exposing the frauds, the crimes, the atrocity, the unfairness, the crookedness, the corruption of the child welfare system that is undeniable and irrefutable because I worked in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he reached out to me and said they're trying to incarcerate him on his birthday, I was horrified. There's no crime here. Listen to me, 30 years in the child welfare system, there's absolutely no crime here. The only criminals are the judges, the attorneys, the police officers, each and every one. When he talks about a conspiracy, that's exactly what it is. All these entities are absolutely complicit with the crimes and the atrocity of what Marc Fishman has endured. Yes, there is parental alienation. Not only Ms. Solomon is guilty of that, the court is also guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
The attorneys are also guilty of that. You have to be truly blessed to find an attorney that's really not going to cooperate with this process. Because I've seen over the years, the parent's attorney sells them out. I've seen that. The parent's attorney, the CPS attorney, the child's attorney, the court, the judge, all on the same page. Right? And I've observed this. I've watched this. I've fought while I was in the system against it. I've been vocal about it. I fought for the children. I fought for the parents. So my situation, why I had to come out as a whistleblower, is because my supervisor was asking me to traffic, and I refused. Not just once, but twice. But so I'm just sharing the depth of the affront, the lack of fear, the feeling of invincibility and untouchability of judges, attorneys, and police officers in being complicit in these crimes. And so I applaud Mr. Fishman because I see things turning in his favor with these arrests, because he has championed it, he has fought hard, he has stayed the course. He never stopped. He pursued with a passion and a fight that is now getting some results.
Mm-hmm.
So when he told me that Jennifer Solomon's brother was the president of the World Bank under Obama, I said, you're in trouble.
Mm.
Your case is a political done deal. You're going to have a fight on your hand. We see how politicized the court system is.
Mm-hmm.
Politics is so involved. In New York City, judges are appointed. In Westchester, they are elected. For me, I've always tell people like Tish James, the Attorney General, people like Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, under the Democratic Party, they're not elected, they're selected. These people, Tish James was not elected. She was selected. Mm-hmm. She stepped out in the front. She said, this is my agenda. This is what I'm going to run on. It's going to get Trump, and that's what the Democrats want. So she was selected by the Democratic Party. New York State is a Democratic state. So Mr. Fishman's case, there's no crime here. Absolutely no crime. What happened on that morning of December 15 is no different from what had happened every other weekend that I supervised the visit for this family. Mm-hmm. I got a call from Miss Solomon the 14th. Miss Elliott, the twins won't be available tomorrow because I forgot what it was they had to do. Joanna won't be available because she had some event. But Jonah will be available. So let Mr. Fishman know if he wants to come up, have breakfast, and go to the hockey game with Jonah, he's willing to do that. I reached out to Mr. Fishman and I said, listen, the twins are here. Joanna is there. But Miss Solomon said, if you would like to see Jonah, he's available. Mm-hmm. We drove up the same way we always did, with his ADA driving, because he's not permitted to drive. I'm in the back seat. We do what we always do. We park several yards from the home on order protection that I didn't see and didn't receive. And I don't believe the court, even though they ordered it, it was not issued. Hmm. So we are several yards away. So I come out of the car, go to the home, which is on the corner of the street. And I'm speaking to Miss Solomon. She said, oh, Jonah is on the side of the house, working with his hockey stick. While I'm speaking to her, Jonah comes around to get another hockey stick. Mr. Fishman saw him. And so he comes out and he goes back into the little lot off to the side of the house. Mr. Fishman drove his car in the street, past the home, turned the corner lot for us to pick up Jonah. So I see Miss Solomon notice, and I said, yeah, we're parked. We'll pick up Jonah around the corner. So I come out and I'm there. Hey, mm-hmm. Jonah, how are you doing today? Yes, I know you must be excited. So there's Miss Solomon's home. There's a little lot where Jonah was playing with his hockey stick, bouncing his ball against the wall. And then Mr. Fishman is 2 more houses down. which is within reasonable distance. So by this time I'm there, getting Jonah ready so we can go in the car. Mr. Fishman comes out of the car. Miss Solomon is standing on her porch. She sees Mr. Fishman exit from the car, 2 to 3 doors down. She goes into a panic, a tirade, and runs into the house. Mr. Fishman, I said, oh, stay there, I'll bring Jonah over. She decided there will not be a visit. And so, of course, you can't blame Dad. He's upset. He has a right to have a visit by a court order. I said, it's okay. We will resolve this. I will speak to Miss Solomon. Let's go. So I'm trying to I de-escalated everything. Mr. Fishman said, I have a court order, rightfully so. I'm going to the police station because I would like to have a visit with my son. He's abiding by the court order. We go to the police station, and that's when we realized that Miss Solomon had already called, and whatever she said ended up in a situation where I was questioned, the ADA was questioned, the aide was questioned, Mr. Fishman was questioned, and sadly, I heard he was going to be incarcerated. He was on a holdover. And so the aide was nice enough to drive me home after, my speaking to the police officers. Mr. Fishman at no time was on that property. There was absolutely nothing out of the ordinary on any other given supervised visit time that was out of the ordinary for Mr. Fishman to be arrested. And so again, because of the legal mafia, because of the judicial mafia, because of the systemic corruption, is why Mr. Fishman is where he is today. When he told me that Jennifer is seeking a permanent order of protection against him for all the children, that right there is parent alienation beyond belief.
Would you say, I'm sorry, would you say it's severe parental alienation? This is a case of severe. I'm sorry.
I supervised this case for a year. These children loved their father. I mean, they love their father. I've spoken to Shower, and while she was not outright, I know the language of coercion. I know the language of trying to sway me into another direction, and I dug my heels in. I refuse to incriminate this man. I refuse to lie for any court, for any judge, or for any attorney. Not that it's Marc Fishman, but I have my core values that I do live by. And so I said, no, Shara, no, nothing happened. He has a right to his visits. No, and so I stood my ground on the issues. New Rochelle Police Department called me, and again, attempts to coerce, attempts to sway, the language of trying to get me to turn against his father. And again, I dug my heels in and refused to do so. The district attorney called me, and it was the same thing. And I dug my heels in. I didn't say much to the district attorney because he's prosecuting this case. And so I kind of backed off pretty much. Went into court, testified on this case. And then Mr. Fishman said that in the transcript, it said that I said that he went on the property. Now, that concerned me
Mhm.
because it means there was a pre-conference that took place and the transcriber or the tape that they used was edited. That is not something I would have said concerning this father because he was nowhere near the property. I was there as a supervisor between this child and the father. Miss Solomon herself has agreed to be in spaces with this father on two occasions, two separate events for the children. She consented to be in the hockey ring. Jonah wanted both his parents there on his first hockey meet. I was able to negotiate with these parents. She was at the other end of the rink. Dad was at the other end of the ring because it was so important to Jonah. She consented to be in the same space. Again, there was a meet with, and she gave permission for Mr. Fishman to be there. There was a meet also with Joanna, and both of them was in the same space, just a small few yards away. And so there was a lot of coercion with these children. When Miss Solomon arrived with the children, she parked in front of the building at times or across the street, but a lot of times it was in the front of the building. Mr. Fishman waited in the lobby for his children. My observation of one on the arrival of the children, they were sullen, they were sad. They gave their parents that they did not want to have these visits with their dad. Like they were so depressed. And as soon as mom drives off, these kids are running to their dad, hugging their father, excited to be with him. I observed the children when we were out in the community, hugging their father, holding hands. He's so bonded to his daughter, Joanna, which saddens me that he couldn't be at all the children, important events. He could not be a part of the important events of the lives of these children. She was so affectionate with her dad. She often begged and pleaded, Dad, could you come to this event? Could you do this? And he said, you know, there's a court order. I'm limited and restricted in what I can do. And this would make his daughter so sad. Boys love their dad. Jonah, many times when I drop the children off, would say, Mom, why does it have to be this way? Why do you and Dad have to fight? Why do, you can't come into agreement so this can stop? So here's a child recognizing where the problem is, where the trouble is, right? Because Mr. Fishman has repeatedly said there is a court order. And when a dad can't see his children, I often remind him, I said, listen, you have a court order, you can, but I understand the emotions of a father whose children are being ripped away from him by the legal system, by the judges, putting a father in prison for sending gifts to his children. It doesn't get worse than that. How can a judge put in an order that you cannot send birthday gifts, Christmas gifts to your children? It just doesn't make sense. How can any judge sit on the bench and decide, I'm going to put in a permanent order of protection against you when there was absolutely no crime? There was no crime here. And so the court has consistently ruled in favor of Jennifer Solomon and gave her everything she wanted. And as I said, when he said who her brother was, I said, I'm so sorry for what you're going to go through. The politics, the network, the hobnob, it's a very real part of the family court system. There's great atrocities that is taking place behind the scenes, under the table, in text messages, phone messages. Everything is being prearranged. Hi, Isabella.
Hi. Ann
Hi.
Elliott.
Everything is pre-conferenced and decisions are made that way. And so when we go into the courtroom, there's just an enactment of already decisions that have already been made about a parent and the decisions that the court are going to follow through on. And so they need to release this man. They need to
Mhm.
drop the charges. We have corrupt police officers, misconducts, years
Mhm.
of it. These are not credible men. These are not credible witnesses. Their testimonies cannot be trusted. They withheld evidence in this case, right? And
Mhm.
so we're looking at a botched up, baseless, um, corrupt case that taxpayers' money are being wasted on. And so, because taxpayer money are paying these people and giving them a salary. And so this case, these charges against Mr. Fishman needs to be dropped. There's not a criminal case. There was no crime. He was not on that property. I, the supervisor, was present. I was an eyewitness to it all. And sadly, we have a court system that is just so corrupt that feels it's invincible,
Mhm.
feels it's untouchable. The police are the same. The psychiatrists are the same because they are also complicit in faking a lot of records. CPS involved, fake records, lies in documentation, and they're all being paid. Everybody's getting paid. Everyone is getting paid, and they're getting paid very well. And so it saddens me that there is a judge, Judge Shower. These judge needs to be removed off the bench. And I'm just
Mhm.
so happy that Mr. Fishman has spent his years highlighting their criminal behavior, criminal activities, and the atrocity that is happening to parents. Their rights are being taken maliciously. The conspiracy is unbelievable. But I can tell you, as someone that's worked in the system for 30 years, it's undeniable and irrefutable. In fact, it was Mr. Fishman who told me, Miss Elliott, I think you've been blacklisted
Mhm.
from Westchester County. They don't want you here.
Mhm.
And he told me several judges recused themselves from the case. He said, because you were on the case. They realized what I was saying. They probably talked among themselves. You can't buy this girl. You cannot pay her enough money to lie, to throw him under the bus, to do
Mhm.
whatever we need to do to sink this guy.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
not budging. She's not moving. She has dug her heels in. And so we're going to keep her out of our court system here in Westchester County. And so what is happening and what I've seen across this nation in advocating and over, seeing a very high profile case, my last case, it's cruel what is happening to these parents. And so we now have to come up with solutions. The evidence is out there. The dockets are out there. The court papers are out there. The parents are out there. The voices are out there of advocates and whistleblowers. It's all out there. At this point, we need to make demands and we need to put pressure on the system. We need to put pressure on HHS. We need to put pressure on DOJ. We need to put pressure on Cash Patel
Mhm.
uh, to now create a task force and make this a priority. And so, in terms of what is happening or getting ready to happen on his birthday, it's criminal. These judges needs to be arrested. Um, what they're doing to families, they are destroying families,
Mhm.
and so sometimes I said families, if you can go to a mediator and
Mhm.
and and do your own agreements and get your case out of the court system, you probably would have a better chance of visitations running a little smoother, running a little better, work out a system where you can co-parent, together, get on the same page. Because once you get this in the court, the attorneys are going to keep you fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And the only people that are winning are the people that you're paying, which is your attorneys, right? And so they keep the fight going. Yes, they do, because it's mutually beneficial for them all. And so it is sad what is happening to Mr. Fishman here, and this whole trying to get him back to New York on his birthday to incarcerate him without a crime is just I'm not sure what to say about it. Shame on you, Judge Shower. In this case, your rulings, shame on you. And I pray that the people of Westchester County, the families of Westchester County, will put pressure on the district attorney and everyone that's involved in your appointment to have you removed. And so, as I said, it's unfortunate that this is happening to Mr. Fishman. And I pray that when and if he comes to New York, that we will see a turn in this case for Mr. Fishman and his family. As I said, that order protection is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Because permanent order protection is ridiculous. There is no crime. Here is a man cannot go to his children's graduation. Your daughter is graduating from college. You can't be there. His son was selected, and the school wanted him to go to an event in, I believe it was in Albany, Mr. Fishman. The
Yes,
money
Binghamton.
sky, and the money wasn't there. And so the school called out to Mr. Fishman and he paid the money. Why didn't Jennifer Solomon pay the money? She makes enough money.
Mm-hmm.
So the children, I do believe, and I've seen this in so many cases, are under restraints by the custodial parent. A lot of them are coached and coerced. Okay? And what I witnessed with these children are children that loves their father, children that want to have a relationship with their father, children that enjoyed every visit I observed. These children enjoyed being with their father.
With being a supervisor, you probably have seen this maybe in other cases as well with a dominating parent like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
There have been, this is why we're having this swing shift.
mm-hmm.
You know, we have this swing shift. I've supervised cases where, I listen to rulings by the judge and I'm like, I can't believe this. I just
Yeah.
cannot believe this. But as someone who was working at the time in that kind of there's so much you can't say, but and do, you know, but many times they want to embellish things. I've had situations where when I worked as a CPS and I would say, listen, there's no need for removal.
Mm-hmm.
This is a service case, and because managers are scared, they're not in the field, they got to cover themselves. When in doubt, pull them out kind of mentality. You go to court. I said, okay, my route was, okay, I'm not going to go to the home to remove. I'm first going to go to the court to get a remand.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I go to get a remand and I'm being interviewed by the attorney, by the end of it, they said, well, you don't have a case because there's not enough to remove these children. I said, well, I know that. But I watched a video a few days ago, Georgia Family Court, where a CPS attorney was trying to convince a judge that the CPS lies and lack of evidence should be admissible.
Mm-hmm.
And the judges were flabbergasted. It was so flagrant.
Mm-hmm.
And she was doing everything she could do. And so I've experienced that, where attorneys were trying to coerce me to add stuff. to put in stuff. And I said, no, that was not the case. No, that didn't happen. No, I didn't see this. I didn't see that. So there are CPS that will try to build a case because they were given a directive. I refuse to do that, even if I'm going to lose my job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I will not build a case against a parent that I feel is a service case and not a case for removal. We also have to understand children are traumatized, but so are parents.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Fishman is a traumatized parent, a
Most
man
definitely.
fighting for his children that's being ripped away from him by the court system, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when every time the judge rules in his disfavor, of course he's going to be upset. Of course he's going to be angry. And that's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I have witnessed a lot of that, a lot of coercion of custodial parents to the children. And so it's important for me to interview the children one-on-one, you know, to get a sense of, you know, is this child being coerced, which at this stage in the game, I can usually tell, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I can almost always tell when the parent comes, this always happens. When the parent comes to exchange a child, the child looks very sad. I don't want to do with the visit. I don't want to be here. I don't want to see my dad. You know, all the bodily signs, emotional signs of I don't want this visit. And mom is like, oh, you know, they don't want to be here, but it's a court order and so on and so. And I said, okay, you know, all right, we're going to do the visit and then, you know, we'll meet back at 7. By the time mom leaves, it's the happiest kid in the world. Dad, where are we going?
Right. It's like you have to reprogram them once.
They absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. The kids are excited. They're happy for the visit. One of the cases I recently closed, again, it was a parent alienation case that went on for parent alienation for 4 years. So the father went in, the mother has, you know, the children are with the mom. And so the father, after 4 years, said, I want to see my children. And so he went to file for supervised visits. And so I'm appointed the supervisor. And so the children, it's 4 years later. So one kid was 8 when he was out of the home. The marriage broke down,
Mm.
and the other was 13, right? So we're doing our first visit, and the children, the girls are crying. You left us and you didn't look back. And my mom had to pay the rent. And you know, we struggled and we didn't have money, and you didn't contact us on our birthday. And guess what dad did? He was so smart.
Mm.
He brought his case file and his receipts.
Good.
And he had been paying the rent all along. He showed them emails that he printed out
Mm-hmm.
to their mother. Could I see the girls? He brought,
Mm.
he text messages. Did the girls get the card? Did the girls get the gifts? This went on for years.
Oh.
And the girls had no clue that this was going on for 4 years. The marriage broke down, and the mother for 4 years refused. And she coerced the children. They hated their father. By the end of that visit, and I returned the children home, the mother called me immediately. She was outside. The kids were getting at her.
Mm-hmm.
How could she lie to them? Oh, he didn't. She said, they said, he showed us text messages, emails over the years, showed them the rent receipt that he had been paying the rent until finally he said, I will not pay another month's rent after about a year and a half until I see my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And it went on, and And so the girls faulted their mother. They missed 4 years out of their father's lives.
Mm.
And this was just one of the most horrific things I've in my supervision of families of what takes place. And so this is so commonplace
Right.
in the court system.
Right. And the judge will tell the parents, don't discuss court with the kids, but that leaves room for a lot of this brainwashing to step in.
Hmm. The judge says it, but it does happen.
Hmm.
The judge says it, but it does happen. I also even remind the parents, please don't discuss the case. Don't discuss, mom, remember now, mom is still angry. She's upset. She's still bitter.
Hmm.
She's talking to family members. She's talking to her sister. She's talking to her mother, and she's bad-mouthing the father, and I mean, it goes both sides of the fence also,
Hmm.
right? And so the children have privy to this information because she's not thinking, I need to protect my children from this.
Hmm.
It's demonizing the parent that wins points,
Hmm.
right? So if I can demonize your father or demonize your mother, I win points with you. And so children are weaponized in this situation between parents. It's very sad to see. I've seen it quite a bit in what I do in terms of supervised visitation, and it's quite commonplace. The judge said don't speak about it, but unfortunately they do.
Do you think the psychologists are also a big part of that problem?
Yes, they are. Um, Listen, families, parents will shop around
Hmm.
for the psychologist who will give them what they want. Give them any diagnosis, anything they want. You could shop around. And if you shop around long enough, you will find the right psychologist, psychiatrist who's willing to play the game.
Hmm.
I do believe, although I cannot pinpoint any specific one right now, that they are also in collusion with the courts, with the attorneys. They're part of the collusion and the conspiracy to weaponize mental health
Hmm.
against family and against parent that are in these custody cases or even in foster care cases.
Right. Right. And I have a quick story if you want to hear it real quick.
Yeah.
But when I was in family court, um, I was the non-custodial parent, and I was out with one of my friends, and we were just looking at TJ Maxx, and she found a necklace that says "Love you more," which is something I always said to the kids. If they say I love you more." I've heard other parents say that to their kids coming out of Giant Eagle. I have witnessed that. So it's not
Yes.
just me saying it to my kids. Other parents are
Yeah.
saying, okay, so it should be no big deal. So I thought, oh, that's so funny. You're right, Julie. I'm going to buy it. So,
Mhm.
I got it and I wore it to a supervised visit with this psychologist.
Mm.
And she went to court and said that I wore that necklace to demonize the father. And I heard my mother
Mm.
gasp in the
Mm.
back, like,
Yeah.
like that was never my intention. I always,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow. I mean, this is how destructive these psychologists are.
Absolutely. It gets that petty and
Mhm.
vicious. I mean, that's a language that's part of our culture now. I love you more. It's
Right.
a language, yeah, it's a language of our culture. So now here is a psychologist, a credentialed person, and this is the power of these people, because they are credentialed. Um, they carry so much weight within the court system that anything they says go.
Hmm.
And it goes in the record. So here you are being demonized, right? For a
Hmm.
language that is commonly used within the culture to say that you are playing on words, playing on their children, playing on their psyche And again, the problem with the court, family court, is that they've lost their purpose and their vision.
Agreed.
They've lost their purpose and their vision, which is to restore families and put families back together. But now they use the law to do the opposite. The psychiatrist is involved in it, right? And so whatever report they need, and I've been asked, one person who dumped their supervisor, and there are supervisors who are also complicit. There are supervisors who take pay to write a report against a parent. So you better be prayerful
and
to find the
beyond.
right supervisor,
Right.
to find the right supervisor whose goal is to see, my focus is very child-centered, the mental, emotional, and psychological well-being of the children. And so I do a lot of coaching on both sides with both parents, right? I try to assist in conflict resolution with both parents, right? I'm trying to get the fight out of the middle with both parents. It's never here, And so this is why Miss Solomon had agreed to him being at the hockey game, because I pointed out this right here is so important to Jonah. Both share a son for life.
Right.
And after Jonah saw both his parents at this event, oh, this kid was so happy. This kid was so happy to see his dad there for a son, and he had time at the rink with his dad. And when he fell down and hit himself, his dad was there, to cheer him on. And it was just a special moment. So why parents and mothers tear at the fathers and make them out to be an enemy of their children, I don't understand it. This is what's happening to Mr. Fishman and his children. And, after 18, I don't think family court has any more jurisdiction over the children. They do what they want, but the vindictiveness of Miss Solomon was to move it into a criminal court so she could get that permanent order protection behind a crime that Mr. Fishman did not commit. So had this just been confined to family court, Joanna could have flown to California to see her dad. She could have picked up the phone anytime she wants to and see her dad, because family court no longer have any jurisdiction once a child becomes 18. In different states, it's different, 18, 21, unless a child declare themselves an emancipated minor. But Jennifer Solomon went to the criminal court and said, I want a permanent order protection. How crazy is that for any judge to put an order in that? Mr. Fishman is not a criminal. He's not a criminal. He is not a criminal. He was not on her property. Not on her property. Not anywhere close to her property. She has a wide yard space, several yards from the gate to the house, right? A wide yard space to the side of the house on the curb, right? He was in the street, a government property, in a car. And two door, parking, a lot, an empty dirt lot where the child was, and two other houses away from Miss Solomon's house. And so the judges don't care. They don't care. You see, the unfortunate thing about corruption, once it starts, it's hard to stop. Once it starts, it's hard to stop. But
I want to thank Ann for that. I mean, Ann, thank you so much, for coming on and exposing this. And I just want to say, if anyone needs a supervisor in the city, Ann is a very honest person. Ann was recommended me from a good friend of mine named Mel Timson, who runs a nonprofit called Westchester Disabled on the Move. And I said to Mel, I'm really struggling, with a bunch of supervisors that don't want to accommodate my disability, don't want to be patient with me or deal with my disability aid or the fact that I can't drive. And Mel picked up the phone and he called and he said, Ann Elliott is your lady. And, he trusts her. So, I just want to thank Ann because here we are, ladies. This is almost 6.5 years after his false arrest. And Ann, you know me well, Maryann. You know me. I don't give up. And you can't take away the cubs from Papa Bear. I mean, you can lock me up. You can throw me in the disability hospital. You can take away my money. You can take away my right to see my kids. Take away my work. And then, ladies, soon they realize there's nothing more to take away. But what you created was someone who's fearless. Because after having 8 cavity searches a day, because Judge Shower put me in jail for sending gifts to my kids, you suddenly say, I don't fear anything. I mean, there's nothing more, vulgar and insulting than that. But what I will tell you is these judges, that conspire, fear federal court. I say thanks to Ann, thanks to Maryann exposing this, and thanks to my advocates like Disability Rights New York and Donna Drum. We're in federal court. It's 6.5 years. And I can tell you that the judges in state court can run. They can't hide. What's been identified here is a conspiracy. And just like they took away my kids, saying that my disability needs supervision or I'm unsafe for the kids because I have a traumatic brain injury and neurostimulators in my head that, massaged my nerves that was severed in the car accident, was hit from behind, by the school. There's no reason to take away kids. If the disability can be accommodated, you're fine. States like California, and Kansas, they accommodate disabled. You can't lose custody of your kid's disability. And that's where Judge Shower and her cohorts, Judge Capici, Judge Zuckerman, and these that recused, this is where they got caught. Because everything they were doing to me, let's call it, ladies, it's called disability discrimination. My son Jonah wants to see me. He's autistic. My son Sky had a speech impairment he grew out of. I'm disabled. Okay, I have 24 surgeries. I have 8 implants. I have a metal hip. I have metal in my chest. Okay, you can't treat me differently. And I'll tell you, we had honest evaluators. Judge Shower made me go to 19 of them. 19 of them. But guess what, Ann? Guess what, Maryann? She wouldn't allow any of the reports to be used because all of them said I'm a great dad. All of them said I had a concussion, I had a TBI, and with reasonable accommodations, I can see my kids unsupervised. She didn't want to hear that. But here's the problem. Judge Shower just said on July 1st, I got the transcript here. She made me buy it, even though I have a court order, I'm supposed to get it for free, right? Judge Shower said there's no evidence of parental alienation, so I'm not going to give you a hearing. Really? Judge Shower, you're not going to give me a hearing because you were one of the people that have to testify. Okay, you're part of the equation. You were defended by this attorney general in which this report of malfeasance, and the attorney general didn't list my report. Ladies, the only misconduct report of the 37 filed that doesn't list all the 1983 actions against the cop is mine. Every other one lists every loss against the cop. Why is mine omitted? Oh, because Judge Shower is being protected by Tish James. Oh, we have the Buddy Buddy Club. Well, guess what? We have the Federal Disabled Parent Club. Okay? And I don't think Federal Judge Rahman or the Second Circuit is going to have any tolerance for this. Everything that you hide, everything that you try to cover under blanket, we expose. Understand, as Ann said, all these entities told me no, Maryann. Ann knows this. No, you won't get the evidence to clear yourself. We have over 900 pages of Schlesinger's disciplinary record with 40 instances, with over 2/3 against disabled people. We have letters from a supervisor of 2013 that does not speak to people. That ignores orders. We now have a federal order for the accommodations that Judge Shower denied. A federal order dated July 16, 21. And when I asked Judge Shower to recuse herself in April when she took the case away, Judge Shower said, Mr. Fishman, I don't need to recuse myself because I'm not violating any state order. She says, your order against me is only valid in federal court. And I said, Your Honor, I'm a common sense man. And, I know how to read. My order has 3 sentences on it. It just doesn't say it's only valid in federal court. That might be your interpretation. But guess what, Judge Shower? You, represented by Letitia James, had 90 days to appeal my order after they ordered you to give me communication accommodations, real-time transcription, which I do as communicating now to you guys on the screen, and you didn't appeal it. So it's law. You don't like it? Judge Shower, do we have a real-time transcription now? Yeah, we do. You're faking your disability. Oh, I'm faking my disability. So you're again challenging federal court. You need to recuse. You can't be impartial here. You're a witness in federal court. You're a witness in the criminal action. Your staff has testified. You can't be fair. Mr. Fishman, everything you say is a lie. But I reviewed all your evidence including your federal court test where I see no evidence of alienation, although I came up with a different conclusion that Judge Capici, everything's your fault. It's your fault you don't see your kids. This is how they operate. They think they can run and hide because they control the state court mafia. We have federal court. We have federal power. We have an American Disabilities Act that just celebrated its 35th birthday. As Ann said, they can run, they can't hide. I've been told no more times than I've been told yes. And I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Let's talk about Lizzie Harden Weinstein. Lizzie Harden Weinstein wrote to me in March. Lizzie, who has a suspicious death, who was fighting, who was institutionalized. They said she was an unfit mother. She went against a powerful father. She couldn't see her 4 kids. And she wrote to me. And she said, Mark, I'm so happy for you. She said, go get him. I got that text, Maryann. She said, go get him. Give up. And we have now Julia Goldfarb, a great mom to a young boy who commits suicide because she can't see her kids for 6 years. Okay. And her boyfriend said, go get him. So no matter if I never get to see my kids again, I'm going to hold these people accountable in federal court. We're going to hold the elected official to task. And, we're going to show people like Letitia James and their politics. You know what? It's very sad that you feel going after a president and what goes on in his bedroom is important to you as the attorney general. It's more important to hold the 37 cops accountable that committed misconduct in New York. At least have a press conference. At least talk about it.
Oh, exactly.
But I have to applaud Maryann because we're exposing it. The attorney general said, no, we're not going to give you FOIL because it's private. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The law enforcement misconduct law is a public investigation, not private. We got their FOIL. What does it say? Oh, yeah, we knew about Fishman's case. We didn't put it in there. We didn't have time to investigate. And, Maryann, how do you not have time? It took 2.5 years. Celestia worked 17 years in New Rochelle. You had 2.5 years to investigate? No, you didn't want to put in there because then I could reopen a case against Judge Shower and D'Ambrosio in federal court. My aide, Isabel, wrote to the governor. The governor, she said, investigate. They're discriminating against him. He's a disabled man. The governor writes back with the attorney general, we don't see anything. We're not going to investigate. It's the same time that Letitia James was already investigating the cop for misconduct. Here we have misconduct, 5 instances, 3 against disabled people. Do you think the attorney general mentioned disability discrimination in her report? No. He's harassing a disabled person who had a heart attack in a car crash and went to a hospital for leaving the scene of a crime after the fact. That's disability discrimination. He harasses a woman. He pulls over in a van. He says, you should have a commercial license because you're carrying furniture. She wasn't a commercial operator. She had a disability discrimination. My case. You don't want to call it what it is. Okay, but you guys could think you could hide it. But guess what? There's no qualified immunity to court actors and police outside judges. Okay, so Celestia has no immunity. New Rochelle has no immunity. Guess what? The truth will come out, whether I see my kids again or not. And it pains me to say that because I really want to hug them all and tell them I love you, Joanna, Jonah, Aiden, and Sky Fishman. But I have to tell you, the truth is coming out. You can jail me. You can penalize me. You can continue to mock me. The truth is here. It's here. Attorney General investigated, has blanket power, subpoenaed Celestia, who avoided his testimony for 4 months. Celestia's own supervisor, Wensler, said he's unreliable even to come to work. So even the comments, Maryann and Ann, that said Celestia was on desk duty, Celestia wasn't even showing up. He was just hanging out. He was fighting with other officers. He had a transport one day in 2022 where he was transporting prisoners with another cop to Westchester County Jail, and he had a fight with a cop. And what does Celestia do, Ann and Maryann? He shuts off his webcam. He shuts off his vest. He takes it off. He leaves it in the van, and he has a quarrel with the guy outside. Well, luckily, ladies, okay, even though Letitia James ignored the report in 23, even though it was in the FOIL, even though it's in the records they sent to me, even though the report was overseen by Tyler Nims, let's say the name, Tyler Nims, Tylernims, the head of the Law Enforcement Misconduct Unit. Tyler says, I didn't have to put it there because we don't have time to investigate everything. You're omitting the fact that he has a pattern of shutting off cameras, just like you did in my case. Are you gonna amend your report to include my case? No, Mr. Fishman, we won't. You can hire an attorney, do it yourself. Do it myself. I'm not the law enforcement misconduct. What about Celestia with the vest? Well, we noted the other cop didn't shut off the vest, so we saw Celestia committed the thing where he insulted him, didn't go by the rule book, and violated his police duties and spoke inappropriately and manhandled the other cop. But you didn't put it in your report. It was in the notes. I said, Tyler, do you realize you have a public responsibility, a moral, ethical responsibility to disclose all the malfeasance of Celestia? We don't have time for that, Mr. Fish. 2.5 years isn't time, 30 months. You know, Mr. Fishman, you can hire your own attorney. This is your head of law enforcement misconduct. Why isn't my lawsuit listed at the bottom? But Tyler Nims, were you aware of my lawsuit? Well, you see what our records, we were very aware of your lawsuit. But your lawsuit didn't have any activity within the 2 years beforehand. What are you talking about? Within 2 years before, we had a trial. At the trial, there was a comment made in one of the transcripts that Officer Slasher refused to sign the full discovery disclosure report, the 1K. That's under New York's enhanced discovery law. It says he's given all the exonerating evidence to the defense. Refused to sign it. Okay, we should have had a trial. I was at a funeral burying my mother. Judge wasn't supposed to have court. They told me there was no hearing. There was a hearing. We got the transcript 3 years later. And the DA is supposed to do a thorough investigation if the cop doesn't sign it. And the judge is not allowed to go to trial under enhanced discovery. But what happens here? Oh, no, well, that date didn't happen. No, that didn't happen. And meanwhile, the Officer Slasher is able to withhold the camera, the audio, the statements, and all this misconduct on him. He's the only cop in Westchester, former cop, thankfully to our case here, thanks to Ann Elliott, Maryann, me, and others exposing him. The only cop in Westchester County, the 6th borough of New York, it's called, with 1.1 million people. The only cop to be labeled pattern misconduct from Attorney General. And the only reporter, Letitia James, that doesn't list the federal lawsuits against him. Why? Because Letitia James is more interested in protecting Judge Shower, Judge Zuckerman, Judge Capici than she is protecting disabled people like Mark. That's the bottom line. But guess what? We have the Mirror. We have tape recorders. We have venues like this. And Maryann Ann, they're getting exposed. We don't lose. They're getting exposed. The camera don't lie. And Letitia James thinks it's more important to prosecute Trump because he might or may not have had a hooker. Who cares? Let's talk about her own cops that she can't police, that she'd rather protect.
I agree. Now, Mark, you have... Oh, go ahead, Ann.
Court watchers are such a powerful, thing to use on these cases. And I don't know if Roman Brick, I was part of his court watching team. And I mean, one time we had 45 people, and so just watching the judge, knowing the court, knowing rulings, and just watching this judge and assessing this judge, I said, oh, yeah, she's on her P's and Q's. She's not even going to try to slip up today. And so court watching is very powerful because court watchers are witnesses, witnesses. And so the more they watch, the more they understand the laws of family court and all that, that goes on. And it's a fight. It's a fight. But I said it has to now, the crackdown, the pressure now has to come from the top. Robert F. Kennedy has to formulate something in HHS for the foster care system. Kash Patel, DOJ, and Pam Bondi, and all these people have to put together something for these custody parents and begin to root out corruption in the family court system. There is enough there. There's volumes across this nation of information, of people, of witnesses, of whistleblowers, of advocates, grassroots organization. And I've been on the front line since Nancy Schaefer brought limelight. And so, it's been what, 20 years or 20 years. This year will be 20 years since Nancy Schaefer, I believe, brought this to the forefront, or her passing. We need to remember her because she was the one that tapped this. It cost her life, her husband's life. And so we're here 20 years later, and there's a plethora of information. Judges have immunity, and it's unfortunate. This needs to be overturned. It absolutely needs to be overturned. When judges hold that kind of power, it says absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so we have judges, rogue judges, that are doing whatever they want on the bench. And some of them are getting kickbacks and payoffs. We see that in New York. We saw a judge doing a custody case, was inviting a parent to a threesome with her and her husband to rule in her favor. And that judge remained on the bench. This was not hearsay. It was in the papers. And the parent ratted her out. showed the text and the pictures that were sent. This judge was not brought up on disciplinary action or ethical review. She stayed on the bench. She continued to deliberate in these cases. And so when the noise got loud, they transferred her to juvenile court,
Oh,
which for me is worse.
right.
Kids and teens are being trafficked,
Oh,
right? So how
mhm.
you gonna transfer a judge that was propositioning, appearing to rule in a custody case for her favor, and because the noise got loud of people protesting, and it was in the New York Post and the New York Times, now the courts put her in juvenile court, and now we have all these kids that are being trafficked. How does she deliberate on these cases? And so again, we're talking about this untouchable, this court that feel they're untouchable, they're invincible, they have immunity, and so they can just be laid back and do whatever they want. And so we now need to pull on our policymakers. We need to pull on these people right now in government, because the time is ripe. It is now that can be done. And we need to get this judge's immunity regulated,
Mhm.
overturned, so families can have the justice that they truly deserve.
Well
I
said.
totally agree with what Ann said,
Oh,
Maryann.
yes.
I totally agree. And I want to add to it. I want to thank people like Roman Brick and Rabbi Jacob Belinsky
Mhm.
and our friends Ethan and Jenny Smith. We've proven that by taking cases to federal court and getting baby wins. You know, I got an
Mhm.
order for the accommodation, but I didn't get my 50,000 transcripts. Well, the order for the accommodation was more important because that helps other people with
Mhm.
dyslexia, dementia, Parkinson's disease,
Mhm.
traumatic brain injury,
Mhm.
get accommodations. But what I'm saying to you is it takes all of us to sue in federal court. There is
Mhm.
no immunity under Title II of the ADA for discriminating against a disabled person. My friend Roman Brick, who just mentioned, he just had a victory against New York, the mayor's office. The mayor's office went after him, and he's a journalist with
Mhm.
PTSD, a father, traumatized in the court. And they went after him saying that he reported salacious material and had some anti-American and anti-peace propaganda and pictures on his website and on his podcasts. And I'm happy to say that it was all a lie, untrue. And Roman Brick, pro se, won his case in front of an administrative judge that he didn't do any of these things. He's just a reporter exposing the truth. But as Ann said, when you're Roman Brick, you don't know how to receive the answer no. Just like I don't know how to receive the answer no from
Yeah.
government or insurance companies. I won't accept it. He didn't
Mhm.
accept it. He challenged it. He won the hearing. Didn't win any money, but he won that he didn't do anything wrong. But what was it? Oh, let's silence him. Let's silence Marc. Let's jail him on his birthday. Oh, let's silence Ann Elliott. Let's keep her out of Westchester. Oh, let's silence all 19 of the evaluators that Marc paid $169,000 for his evaluations for neuropsych, psychological, social worker. He's a great parents. Let's silence all of them by not allowing any of them to testify. You know, let's
Mhm.
not give the records to the appellate division because Judge Shower worked there 8 years. Let's just label Marc a bad parent. You know, well,
Oh,
guess what? Who's protecting them in federal court? Who's protecting them now that we have a president who says, you know, to these judges like the one Roman Brick had in another administrative proceeding?
Mhm.
Trump said, I'm not going to protect administrative judges who are appointed who are accused of civil rights violations of the Constitution. Amen.
mm,
Why should you? They're
Mhm.
private judges. They're guns for hire. Let them protect themselves. And if they don't want to be sued for civil rights violations, then guess what, Maryann and Ann? Don't violate civil rights of disabled parents or
Mhm.
disabled people. Then you won't be sued. It's
right.
about time we had a president stand up and say, I'm not going to waste this money. You know, I've had administrative judges says, I'm not going to accommodate you. And now that I won federal court, now I go to human rights. And I know the people there. I go to New York City Human Rights, and they get involved. They say, you can't have a hearing and not accommodate the disabled person. And then the judges relent often, and they go down. They don't want to fight. Why? Because I won federal court. So it took me winning in federal court, losing my kids,
Mm,
and losing my peace, and having to go to the other side of the country to live a normal life, try to live a normal life, going to rehab half a week, okay, to get agencies to respect this. Why? Because you fear going to federal court? I don't fear going to federal court.
Mhm.
Federal court, ladies, is the only place where I can tell you the judge lets you speak. If you're professional and courtesy to him or her, they don't interrupt you. They let the adversary speak. The judge
Mhm.
at the end of the proceedings says, is everyone's issue addressed? Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to be spoken to? The exact opposite that we get in Westchester Family Court. In Westchester Family Court, it's over. You can't speak. No, you can't make your case. No, you can file appeal. I said, what'd you say? I don't even remember what you said. It's too quick. I didn't get the words. Oh, I don't care. Order transcript. Where's my court order, Judge Shower? Your court order is the transcript. You can get it so ordered. You're not even going to give me an order of appeal? Mr. Fishman, everything you say is wrong. You can get the transcript. Some of those transcripts took 11, 12 months before. Now we can get them in weeks. But when I was suing back in 17, 18, oh, yeah, they'd lose them for a year. As Ann said, they'd omit certain words, or in this case, Judge Shower edited my transcripts. She edited my transcripts to say what she didn't want to say. And then when the transcriber refused to edit it, she had him fired. And we got the records for this. And she still practices. And I want to say this. A lot of my friends going to do this are moms. A lot of the tortured parents in front of Shower moms. Shower doesn't care about sex. Shower enjoys discriminating against men and women. She enjoys the power to destroy families. She is a sick human being. I watched on Facebook as she married a couple, and I cried. I said, their marriage is jinxed. She's marrying them. Can't respect the civil rights. She's a judge. She has a robe, and she sends to me, I'm not disabled, I fake it. Or she says what she said. She said, Mr. Fishman, you fake your disabilities. You keep accusing me of discriminating against you, but as you stand here today, you have no apparent disabilities. You have no wheelchair, you have no walker, you have no cane. What is it you're taking out of your bag? Are you taking out a tape recorder? Your Honor, I'm taking out my neurostimulator remote. Oh, is that a Walkman? No, Your Honor, it's from Medtronic. Medtronic doesn't make Walkmans. Oh, what is that other thing? I'm taking out my sleep apnea tongue stimulator remote. Oh, is that a recorder? It's not a recorder. It says Inspire on it. Well, Ms. Fisher, I think you should be arrested because you bring a recording device here. Your Honor, neurostimulators don't record, but they're proof I have appliances in me that assist me with major bodily impairments of breathing, talking, sleeping, and pain. Mr. Fishman, you're faking it just like you fake everything else. Court officers seize him, and they come over and they said, Your Honor, they're medical equipment. Get him out of my courtroom. Get him out of my courtroom. This is how she talks. And then when she comes back in, Ms. Fisher, are you calm down now? I said, Your Honor, I didn't have any exciting arguments. The only one who was excited and disrespectful was you. I was taking out my medical equipment, which had to go through a metal detector and be inspected, wouldn't be allowed in your courtroom as a recording device.
Right.
Mr. Fishman, as you sit here today, you have no apparent disability, just ridiculous requests to accommodate your disabilities, and they're all baseless. And as I sit here today, you have no disability. Is she a doctor? Is she a nurse? Is she a biologist? Why do you hate me so much? Oh, because we sued you in federal court. Oh, because we exposed you in federal court. Why do the other judges hate me? Oh, we exposed 8 of you. 8 of you listed in that court order. Oh, what happened? Well, Judge Ken Karras said, no, you have no immunity. You have no immunity from discriminating, denying a note taker, denying real-time transcription, denying an aide. Judge Showers never allowed a court watcher. Judge Showers never allowed guests to come in. She says she does. Why? She doesn't want to be recorded. She doesn't want to be caught. And they all protect her. They all protect her. And, I want to say, as Ann said, there's a RICO case going on in Westchester, Rockton. It cost Judge Eisenpress to step down. It was Faith Miller, who is the wife of Alan Shankman. Alan Shankman was the division exec and then the head of the appellate division second warrant. So Faith Miller's partners were caught on vacation in the Caribbean with Judge Eisenpress in Rockton. Caught on vacation while presiding over cases in front of Judge Eisenpress. So Judge Eisenpress gets demoted, and she gets sent to Orange County, where they send judges they don't like. Orange County, New York, right? In Newburgh, the murder capital of New York, right? But what happens? A couple friends of mine have a RICO. And guess what? The RICOs go in the distance. Why is a judge on vacation with the attorneys who used to work for her, who are representing the plaintiff in a case, or father in this case, against the mother? It was aired on Sarah Wallace. Why? They're representing other cases. Because they own the system. They think they can do what they want. They think they own the judges. They think they own the entire thing. Guess what? We have federal court. We have civil rights. Okay? We have the press. We make our own press. And it's highlighted against disabled people. I don't know any parent who's gone through family court Westchester doesn't have PTSD. The courts make us disabled. They make us disabled. PTSD is disability. And as Ann said, it's got to end. It will end. It might not end at the time my kids turn 18. But I guarantee it's going to end. It's going to be exposed, and it's going to be election issues. And we're already seeing population shifts. People say why they leave New York and Maryann. You know why? It's the social policies. They won't in California. They won't use disability against you in family or divorce court. In 8 other states, they have laws. They won't use it. In New York, we don't care. Your disability means you're a bad person. You can't watch your kids. You can't be with them alone. They won't use it. You can't be You have to be looked at as a monster. You're teaching the kids not to accommodate a disability. What happens when they're alone with their grandparents? Their grandparents can't be alone with them. What happens when they're with their uncle, who is an amputee, who was a veteran in Iraq? You can't be alone because he only has one foot. These are the wrong lessons. They're getting exposed, and they're going to be held accountable in federal court and in the press. And people like Letitia James, if you're not going to protect disabled people, and if you're not going to help parents with PTSD, you're going to be fired by the voters. And thank God for people like Ann and Maryann that expose it, that help us with truth. And, you know, I'll go down fighting till I'm dead. I love my kids. And the first thing Judge Shower did when I went back to court in front of her was she took away my right to the kids' school records. She violated FERPA. She said I was inappropriate with the kids' teachers. I haven't spoken to the kids' teachers in high school ever. I speak to the attorney for the school district and the administrator. Okay? And Judge Shower said, you're saying that I'm inappropriate. The aide for the club that my son Sky goes to, Future Business Leaders in America, sends me a text, says my son wants to come to Anaheim in California to attend the conference, and his mother won't pay for it. Will I? I said, of course I will. But I can't give you approval to come. I can't speak to Sky. I can't ask him if he wants to go. But if you're telling me as an independent third party that my son wants to go, I will pay you $1,000 so he can go. You don't have to tell him it's from me. It doesn't matter. I love him forever, and he can go. He got to go, and I didn't get a chance to see him. The judges would not waive the order of protection for me to contact my son. And that's the monsters they are, you know, and that's who they are.
They're sick.
And, you know, Ann and Maryann, they're getting exposed. They're getting exposed. And they can run, they can hide. We got 9.5 hours footage on Schlesinger. I think it's only a matter of time before New Rochelle police officers have federal charges. We all thought that Breonna Taylor, who died with a no-knock warrant in Kentucky, when the police charged him, we're not going to get federal charges. The cop that shot how many rounds against a defenseless woman in her apartment, you know, got 3 years federal time. Amen. Amen. You know, you can't violate people's civil rights. We do have a federal judge. We do have a federal court. We do have a U.S. DOJ. We do have the press, you know, and thank God for you guys, because I'm motivated by other parents who call me up. Other disabled parents tell me, you know, you encouraged me to sue in federal court. You know what? Reading your case, you encouraged me to fight another day. You know what? Reading your case, I'm gonna tolerate this family court thing for another year. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. I love my kids. They know I love them. And, you know, all I can say is thank God people like Ann that speak the truth, and people like Maryann that expose them. And thank God people like Maryann that had to go to jail like I did to expose the truth. You know, I still haven't recovered from being the 3 weeks in jail. I still get, you know, nightmares from the flashing lights every 15 minutes in the hospital ward, and from not having a pillow, putting holes in my head, and, you know, the rashes on my neck because I didn't get my skin cream from my steroid cream that helps with the rashes from my stimulator. You know, that was torture. Let's call it torture. You know, someone implant that doesn't have to elevate his head. But it's sessions like this that motivate me to keep fighting and see that there is victory. And these people that they call family court judges, it's only a matter of time, as Ann said, before they're not going to have unlimited immunity. The immunity will be limited because we, the people, will not tolerate our civil rights and ADA rights being violated. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now,
I mean, the reality is that some of these judges themselves needs mental health evaluation.
I was going to, thank you.
They need mental health evaluation. They're at a point right now, as I listen to the discourse of Marc with Judge Shaw, that's clearly a woman who needs a mental health evaluation, because judges are no more on the bench deliberating by the rule of law. They're getting angry, they're getting bitter, they're fighting parents, they're pulling these punches against parents from the bench. Something is wrong. And you're just making up because you can sit there and have immunity. I don't know how it is from state to state. You can rule anything you want and get away with it. And so, yeah, some of these judges, they may be in that robe on the bench, but there's other things going on with them behind the scenes. I remember the attorney I was working on in a very, very high profile case out in California, and he had retired after 40 years. And he said, you know, Miss Elliott, I am retired. A new attorney is taking this case on. You know, my client got a new attorney, very high profile. I mean, political, high profile people. And this woman saw me on a podcast and reached out to me. And he said, I couldn't wait. I did 40 years in family court. I couldn't wait to get out of the sewage. He said,
Mhm.
he said, I started out when lawyers were lawyers and judges were judges, but everyone now is on the take. And so I started working with the new attorney for this parent. And so he was a young, fresh-faced lawyer who's doing and is working by the rule of law. Except when he tries to do that, they call CPS on him. And so he told me, somebody called CPS on me and I've not done anything to my child. And they came in and they're threatening me to remove my child because this is a high profile case. So I said, listen, that's your warning shot. That's your warning and so after some time, a few months, he called me and said, I'm giving up this case.
Mm.
My family, my child is far more important to me than to be sucked into what's going on here. And he said, are you going to stay on board? Because your name is now circulating in the family court there in California. I said, absolutely. Said, have you ever heard of Nancy Schaefer? I said, I sure have. He said, what happened to you? Happened to her? And I said, of course, I know she was murdered. He said, just be careful because the California family court system is a syndicate crime family.
Mhm.
And you could possibly find yourself in a lot of danger. I said, I'm used to it. I've been dealing with it for a couple of years. And
Mm.
so I kind of stayed on with the case and, work with this parent. And they took, for her to have visits with her child, supervised visit by an agency, she had to drive 80 miles out of her county to an agency that they say, and this is high profile, political. The person that is alleged to be behind it is in the Congress.
Mm.
And behind these children being in the system. And so she's driving 80 miles to see her kids. I said that's not supposed to be by law. I don't know what goes on in California. New York,
Mhm.
you're not supposed to allow hardship for a parent. And so I said, give me the address of this place. And so she's also in real estate. And when we checked and we did the investigation, this was not even a child welfare
Mhm.
organization. And her children are the only children being visited in this place. This place was a cover. This place was an NGO, non-governmental organization that was fronting as a visitation organization because this case was so highly politicized and, highly political. And so they began to threaten her because she was doing podcasts. She got afraid, she lay low, and they literally scrubbed the internet of all her podcasts and all the things that she were doing, again, to cover the courts, to cover the governor, to cover this congresswoman and former speaker of the House. And it's cruel, it's brutal. But judges now are in their feelings
Mhm.
and they're fighting parents. And if you tick them off, they're going to rule against you.
Mhm.
They need mental health evaluation because they're being triggered and they're not governing and deliberating by the rule of law in fairness, in justice, and equality. All the things that the court system stand for. You are innocent until proven guilty. Now for them, you're guilty, 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 guilty. Now, Judge Shara was very demeaning, very degrading, very insulting to Mr. Fishman, not believing him, being mocking him. I mean, you're a judge. How do you get away with this and remain on the bench?
And I was also thinking they should probably have random drug screens because my
Absolutely.
my judge
Absolutely.
died of pancreatitis, and I just wondered what drugs he was on when he was running my case.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Drug screening for these judge, psychological testing like they do with the police when you're going in, you do a psychological test. we're going to have to step it up for judges also because,
Mhm.
as I said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is where we are right now with family court and with the judicial system. It is what it is right now. And a lot of parents are getting railroaded, shafted, thrown
Oh.
under the bus, ran over several times, and you
Mhm.
don't have a voice anymore. And so, I remember when Lizzie reached out to me, it was about, they locked her up in this facility.
Mhm.
That was a weaponization of the court, a weaponization of the parent that she was fighting, you know. And so she wanted to know if there's anyone I could, refer her to for a mental health eval because she needed to turn this thing around and just listening to her story. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is really happening to you. But yeah, this is how they use mental health as a weapon to silence, to remove your influence, and to remove your voice. And everyone is complicit in that case. So very rarely you will come across a judge that is certainly sympathetic to families and to the parent and rule, appropriately. And those judges are just the older judges, maybe 70 years old, they came from the old school, you know. But it is just a criminal what is happening to these families in the courtroom and in the family court system. And as I said, the pressure's got to now come down from the top, and we have got to formulate policies and things that we want to see, and we need to drive those. Have protests to have these judges removed from the bench, like Shara. Get enough people outside the courtroom, get parents, to share their testimony and get these judges off the bench.
Mhm.
And let me just add that, and I agree with everything you said. And, thank you, Maryann, for all the challenges you've been through. Um, with the Supreme Court, we had a case a couple years ago. It's called Thompson v. Clark, and it directly impacts family court. It was a Brooklyn father, okay, whose 4-year-old adopted daughter called in abuse charges against the father. And the police came without a warrant, and the father said, I'm not letting you in. I don't know what you're here for. Okay, they both broke down the door in Brooklyn, slammed the father to the ground, okay, brought the kids to foster, and locked the father up for 3 days. And then they saw that everything that the daughter said was a lie. There was no abuse. There was no evidence of abuse. There was just a child calling in a lie, which some 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds do. So he originally sued, okay, in district court, Eastern District Court in Brooklyn, okay, for malicious prosecution. Again, let's call it malicious prosecution. And they
Mm.
said, although they believe he was maliciously treated, they said that because he was not convicted by a jury, that there was no malicious prosecution. Then the Federal Second Circuit, our appellate court in Manhattan, okay, said there is no malicious prosecution because he wasn't charged by a prosecutor and he wasn't exonerated by a jury. Judge Kavanaugh of the Supreme Court authored a majority opinion that said for the Fourth Amendment claim of malicious prosecution under 42 U.S.C. 1983 that a plaintiff only needs show that the criminal prosecution ended without a conviction to satisfy the favorable termination element, effectively making it easier to sue police for malicious prosecution. Meaning, if the police can detain you for an hour and then release you, that's malicious prosecution. It's violating your civil rights. If the police, okay, throw you in a car and handcuff you for 2 hours, and then afterwards you're not charged, that's malicious prosecution. Those of us who are parents subject to these ridiculous order of protection violations for not violating order of protection. As Ann said, I didn't go on the property and communicate with my ex-wife. Didn't write to her, didn't text her, hadn't spoken to her in 10 years, right? Okay. Now you see that that is malicious prosecution. And you can sue. And I encourage parents to sue under Thompson v. Clark. It opens up the avenue to sue to many, many more cases. And
Mm.
and and I want to add, you know, we need more federal lawsuits because judges are opening up to the fact that family court it cannot violate the Constitution, cannot violate the Fourth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. What Ann's saying is correct. And these judges, now we have Substack, Medium, and we have, Mother Jones for disabled people that expose that reporters aren't afraid to expose the truth, aren't afraid to talk about it, and recordings in court, cameras in court, and I invite people to go to Ann's website and my
Mhm.
website, New Rochelle PoliceAbuse.com, and sign up, write to judge, support,
Mhm.
contact your legislatures because by the masses contacting them, we can end this.
Right.
We can end this. But we already have the laws, you know. And as Ann said, we have a lot of senior judges and a lot of new judges that don't want to go by us. I don't have this discrimination in New York City. New York City is very accommodating. I go to virtual court multiple times. You know, I have a virtual court. I don't have this problem. You know, they're accommodating. It's from other judges who want to punish you for being disabled or want to think that your disability demeans you. Judge Shower had me drug tested in front of members of her court staff. And then my attorney said, what about Miss Solomon getting drug? I wouldn't have to drug test her. You just said Mr. Fishman had a pee in a cup in front of a window, and you announced the results, violating his HIPAA in front of open court, saying, oh, there's no drugs in the system. You know he has electric stimulation. You know he can't tolerate painkillers, which is why he has a stimulator. You know he can't take opioids. So why are you surprised there's no drugs in the system? Electric stimulation does show up. But when he asked that Miss Solomon be tested, oh, no, we don't need to. So you already ruled in her favor. What was the point of having old trial? You know, why you bought and paid for? You know, why are you protected? You know, and what about my kids' disability rights? Well, you can sue for your disability rights in federal court. We're going to take Ann Elliott's testimony and other people's testimony to prove parent alienation in the appellate court and in the other state courts when Judge Shower and other family court judges won't allow us to prove it in their court. We proved it in federal court. Federal court's higher. You know, sworn depositions. You're not going to allow it in? Well, that's going to be a constitutional issue. If you don't allow it in, you're not allowing me to have a parent alienation hearing because you're discriminating against me because I'm disabled. If I wasn't disabled and then sue you in federal court, didn't have a judgment to get accommodation denied, you let me have a parent alienation hearing because you would think that I wouldn't win. We already met the terms to win. Judge Thompson Cabanel already ruled the $49,000 abatement for my child support for my son Aiden not coming into visits after Ann Elliott was not the visitation provider. And we say it again. There were more than 150 visits after Ann Elliott. Aiden did not come to one. Okay? Aiden said he didn't want to see his father with a supervisor. He didn't need to. He wanted to see his father just alone. Oh, Judge Shower and Judge Capici wouldn't do that. And here's the ironic thing, which Maryann and Ann touched on. I was sent to violence court with Judge Capici, independent domestic violence court, afterwards, and I got relinquished in February. I got discharged, which means the family court portion has already exonerated me, and yet criminal court Judge Zuckerman and Williams won't. How ironic is that? You could be sued in two courts. No one gets discharged from violence court. Once you go to violence court or family court, you're there until the kid's 21. I'm discharged. Judge Capici knew the cop lied there. Judge Capici took the sworn statements of Schlesinger, who says I went to the property. Well, according to all his paperwork, I didn't. According to his testimony, you know, this is the mafia. I'm innocent. Oh, no, we got to throw him in jail. And as he goes through appeals, he'll be gone. No. We got federal court. We got TVs. We got exposure. We have judges who are fair. We have a president who abides by the Constitution. You're getting exposed. And if you're an attorney general who only prosecutes selectively, you're going to get exposed too. And maybe law enforcement misconduct investigations should be taken away from Letice James. Maybe we should have an independent prosecutor and rotate it every year. I mean,
that's a good idea.
It's a public report, Ann. I got lucky. You know, the truth of the matter here, Ann and Maryann, there's one reason that that Officer Schlesinger was sent to LEMIO. The insurance company that's defending New Rochelle told New Rochelle police, we ain't going to defend you unless you send him. That's it. So if it wasn't for my lawsuit that the insurance company is defending for New Rochelle, there would be no report on Schlesinger. So of course I'm not going to be in it because, then the insurance company's going to have to pay. Then we're going to have to admit that Schlesinger, Kane, and other people violated orders of protection and civil rights of other parents for thousands of cases. Because Officer Sean Cocaine Kane, who planted cocaine on video on Ivan Harper, a black personal trainer, and who signed certifying that my arrest report was 100% accurate by Schlesinger, right? Suspended, right? How many other convictions did he do this to? How many other order protections won't be upheld? How many other cases? There's no doubt why Judge Cacici, now D.A. Cacici, a judge who served 23 years in Westchester, who's buddy with Shower, Cacici, Williams, and Judge Zuckerman, all these families won't investigate. Of course you won't investigate. All the New Rochelle convictions will be tossed out. You know? But isn't that the job of a wrongful conviction unit? Judge Cacici wrote out to me, Mr. Fishman, your case is not ripe for the wrongful conviction unit. What does that mean? I'm not asking for a vegetable garden. It's the ripest case ever. The attorney general did the homework. That's the cop lied. Oh, we're not going to investigate. Oh, because you don't want your own convictions overturned. You don't want to look into your history because then they'll expose you as a fraudulent judge. You won't be the DA anymore. Okay, you tell that to the federal judge. You tell that to the DOJ. You tell that to HHS because the investigations are coming. It's only opening up wider.
It is.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Maryann.
No, and the taxpayer needs to know all about this. And
Absolutely.
and how can people reach you, Ann Elliott, if they have any questions?
Oh, you could go on my website. There's a box there. You can ask all your questions and forward it to me. And I'll get it in my email. It's www.reformcwn.org.
I appreciate you both coming on and exposing all of this, but don't jump off. Slam the Gavel is a podcast, help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Marc Fishman and Ann Elliott, for all of this and making everyone aware. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.